You're watching Cable 2.
Good evening and welcome to the June 28th, 2022 Winston-Salem Forsyth County Board of Education meeting. I am Deanna Kaplan, Board Chair, and I appreciate your attendance. And I also say good evening to viewers on Channel 2, Cable 2. Will you please rise as we start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance followed by our invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we come to you today asking for your guidance, your wisdom, and support as we begin our meeting. Help us engage in meaningful discussions and allow us to grow closer as a school board. Amen.
Amen. Our first order of business tonight is the agenda review. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as written?
So moved.
Second. Okay, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Our next order of business is our special recognitions. First, Kenya Rocker, our lead high school counselor, will recognize the UNCF scholarship recipients.
Good evening, Chairwoman Kaplan, members of the board, and Superintendent McManus. For over 75 years, the United Negro College Fund has provided support and financial assistance for underserved and underrepresented students, more than 500,000, in their pursuit of a college education in order to promote socioeconomic stability and upward mobility. As a district, Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools partners with UNCF to support our seniors with a scholarship award. The scholarship is funded 100% by the generous contributions of Winston-Salem Forsyth County educators and employees through payroll deductions and one-time gifts through a workplace giving campaign. The Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools UNC Scholarship provides up to $5,000 a year and is renewable for up to 4 years. Tonight, we are excited to add 2 more of our Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools UNC students to our UNCF scholarship family. Why 2? Due to COVID, the district was unable to host an application process for our seniors in 2021. So we worked with UNCF and our high school student services teams to play catch up. So tonight, we will recognize 2 alumni of Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools and celebrate their accomplishments and hard work. I would like to thank Ms. Pilar Flynn, District Interpreter and Translator, Dr. Mark Maxwell, Equity Coach, Mrs. Stephanie Williamson, ESSER and TSLIP Project Manager, and Mr. Mark Batten, Executive Director of Community Engagement, for their participation on the Scholarship Committee this year. I'd also like to thank all of the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools employees for their contributions and continued generous support of this scholarship. The Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools UNCF Scholarship recognizes a high school senior who has a cumulative GPA of 2.5 or higher, demonstrated evidence of leadership and community service. Between our 2 application processes, our scholarship committee received applications from and interviewed many well-deserving candidates. And we shed a few tears as we interviewed these awesome students. So we are excited to recognize our 2 students. Our student from the class of 2021 is Maria Carina Martinez Morales, and she is a 2021 graduate of Atkins Academic and Technology High School. Maria Carina just finished her first year at Winston-Salem State University. She is a pre-nursing major. She fell in love with nursing in an internship with Novant Health. She currently works with Novant Health, and she told us a just wonderful story of how she's already been involved in saving patients' lives in the emergency department due to language barriers that she was able to help those folks overcome. So she is working to be a traveling nurse and a nurse practitioner. Our recipient for the class of 2022 is Ayanna Nguyen. She is a graduate of R.J. Reynolds High School. Ayanna plans to attend Xavier University in New Orleans, where she will major in neurology. And she just had us all in tears. Ayanna has a wonderful story. Sadly, she experienced a bullying incident in middle school that impaired her sight and her neurological health. And she said doctors didn't know what to do with her. Sometimes teachers didn't know what to do with her, because she learned differently from that point on. And so she wants to become a neurologist so that she can help other students with what she has suffered through. And might I add, she is also the first African-American female drum major at RJR Reynolds High School. Thank you so much in helping me to recognize these most deserving young ladies. And if you would, shake the hands of the board. Thank you.
Next, Cheryl Harry from Triad Cultural Arts will recognize the Queen Juneteenth Court.
Good evening, everyone. Triad Cultural Arts is honored to present the inaugural Queen Juneteenth Scholarship Pageant in partnership with the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools and the United Negro College Fund. A renewable 4-year tuition scholarship is awarded annually to a student to attend a historically black college or university. This scholarship offers the much-needed stability to ensure completion of a baccalaureate degree. Participants are required to be a high school junior in the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools, have at least a 2.5 GPA or higher, plan to attend an HBCU, have an interest in leadership, have a desire to serve in the community, and be of great and excellent character, which they all were. I'd like to introduce to you the court of the Queen Juneteenth pageant. Our fourth runner-up was Shania Simmons. These are 11th grade students, Carter G. Woodson School of Challenge. Our third runner-up was Tiani Ingram. She's a junior at Glen High School. Our second runner-up was Kiana Andrews. a junior at Parkland High School. Our fourth runner-up was Kinley Copeland. She's a junior.
First runner-up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, God, you all are good. Okay. First runner-up, Kinley Copeland. She's a junior at Reagan High School. And our Queen Juneteenth, Zuri Sweat, who is a junior at West Forsyth High School. The pageant included 6 months These young ladies worked for 6 months attending workshops centered on personal growth and development and the cultural theatrics that uplifts the heritage and invigorated self-confidence in all of them. We're so proud of all of them. Thank you so much.
Before we move on, can I just say something? So I had the great fortune of attending the pageant, and I just wanted to thank, there was an amazing group of local women that put this on, and Board Member Woodbury was part of that group, but they were called the Queen's Council, correct? And these were women very involved in our community that, and it was an amazing, I've been watching pageants since I was little, and it was probably the best pageant I've ever seen. I mean, the girls were incredible. So I just wanted to say, I'm so glad that you all started this pageant this year. Board Member Woodbury.
And I just want to thank this board and the leadership through the superintendent's office. As I told the community, there was 100% support from this board and the superintendent's office to really make this happen. And so I just really want this community to know that, you know, this board, we can argue at times up here and have differences of opinions, but when it really comes to the heart and mind of making things right with children, I can always count on every last one of these board members. So I really want to thank this board for making sure we were able to do something like this in our community.
Thank you. Next, we will have our board spotlight video. No, we're right.
June marks the end of the school year, and after months of hard work, students deserve a break and a day to let loose and have some fun. That was the case at Southwest Elementary and many other Winston-Salem Forsyth County schools as they held Field Day, a time-honored tradition that's been around since the 1950s.
I think it's just a time for them to celebrate the school year and everything that they've done, have fun with their friends, just celebrate and relax. Their year's over. And so now it's just about them having fun and making a bunch of memories. It's actually the first real field day that we've had in 4 years. I do remember field day was always a big deal, but that was always a fun day. And so hopefully we've kind of created that memory again for our kids. So I'm glad we're able to do that now.
WSFCS recently teamed up with Speed Dreams, a local high-performance athletic program, and Wake Forest University to present an Olympic Sports Day for a select group of 6th graders from across the district. Coach Derek Speeds, a WSFCS alum, runs the Speed Dreams program and even has experience as an Olympic coach. The event was held at Deaton Thompson Stadium and Griffith Elementary's gym. The objective was to introduce students to a variety of Olympic sports. Sports outside of the typical ones our students normally focus on, such as cycling, curling, archery, fencing, and even breakdancing, just to name a few. The Olympic Sports Day was a hit with students, and they hope the enthusiasm for this pilot event will carry over to next school year as WSFCS hopes to expand the event to other age groups and other schools throughout the district. Perhaps the most important job WSFCS has every year is graduating our seniors. After 2 graduations were held in May, June marked the end of graduation season as 14 more high schools in our district held their commencement ceremonies between June 9th and June 12th. This year, WSFCS had 3,621 seniors graduate. These students are well decorated and have received more than $80 million in scholarships from colleges, universities, and military service academies across the nation. We had a chance to catch up with a few of the graduates to ask what's the most important lesson they're taking away from WSFCS.
The biggest thing I take away from high school is learning to find balance, whether that be through academics and athletics, finding a social life and friends, just really good balance that you can find and stick with for the rest of your life.
Time management is a big thing. You got to be big on time management so you can get your priorities straight. Once you get that down pat and you know what you want to do in life, it's all easy from there.
Study hard, but also make friends, have fun, but keep your studies in mind always.
Hard work always pays off. So you got to always put forth anything you want to achieve. And also academics is real special when it comes to school because education will get you to a lot of places.
Congratulations to the class of 2022. We are proud of all of your accomplishments and wish you the best of luck in the future. On June 14th, WSFCS got a chance to recognize all 276 of our retirees. There was a celebration event at the Education Building.
They've spent their lives giving back to being educators, and so I think for them, it's very bittersweet. Like they're leaving what they love, but now it's time for new adventures and time to relax and really take care of themselves and their families.
The retirees' tenure ranged from 3 years all the way to 42 years of service in our district. We are thankful for all of them, everything they've done, and all the lives they've touched. Congratulations on a job well done. You will be missed and will always be part of our team.
Our retirees bring years and years of experience and just knowledge and care for our children. And so it's a loss to the system, but we've encouraged a lot of them that want to, come back at some point. There are so many different opportunities for them. I appreciate our retirees so much, and there's always a place for them here in Winston-Salem, Forsyth County Schools.
West Forsyth High School's JROTC leadership team had the tremendous honor of competing in the U.S. Army JROTC Leadership Bowl Championship in Washington, D.C., June 19th through the 23rd. The Titans team includes cadets Donovan Allen, Linus Amsbury, Madison Boone, and Daniel Castillo, and is led by Senior Army Instructor Richard Sugg. Almost 1,400 high schools in the United States have Army JROTC leadership teams, but this West Forsyth group was one of only 40 teams that advanced to the national championship. While competing in our nation's capital, the cadets also got a chance to visit all the historical monuments, memorials, and museums. They also participated in a wreath-laying ceremony at Arlington National Cemetery, visited the grave of Winston-Salem war hero Lawrence Joel, and had the honor of meeting 3 North Carolina members of Congress. The trip turned out to be a huge success as the Titans JROTC team finished a very impressive 5th place in the national championship. Congratulations to the West Forsyth JROTC leadership team. You make everyone here at WSFCS very proud. On the evening of June 17th at Paisley IB Magnet School, 13 young ladies from WSFCS got the chance to participate in the inaugural Queen Juneteenth Scholarship Pageant. It was hosted by Triad Cultural Arts along with the Queen's Council, a group composed of some of the most influential women in Forsyth County, and in conjunction with WSFCS and the United Negro College Fund.
They are what's right in our district. They are what's right in our community.
The pageant is designed to be a cultural theatrical experience that uplifts the young lady's heritage and provides the necessary background for them to succeed in higher education. Months of planning and preparation went into this event, and it was a night the participants won't soon forget.
Never forget, and to connect it to a national holiday like Juneteenth. I know that all of the citizens want to support our students and support each other. So what better way to recognize Juneteenth than to get our students involved, to get their families involved?
We would like to congratulate Zuri Sweat from West Forsyth High School. She won the Queen Juneteenth Scholarship Pageant. In addition to the title, she also receives a 4-year scholarship to an HBCU of her choice.
It's one of the biggest moments in my life. I thought it was amazing. These beautiful women on the Queen's Council coming together and representing how us young Black women should be, what we should strive for, what the pageant is about, uplifting our Black heritage and truly teaching us about ourselves.
WSFCS would like to recognize East Forsyth Eagles softball pitcher Kirsten Deal for receiving a huge award. Deal has been named the 21-22 Gatorade North Carolina Softball Player of the Year. The Gatorade Player of the Year award has been handed out since 1985 and is considered to be one of the most prestigious honors in high school sports. Deal is also ranked as the nation's #1 softball prospect in the class of 2022 by Extra Inning Softball and has signed to play with two-time defending NCAA softball national champion Oklahoma Sooners in the fall. Congratulations, Kirsten, on a tremendous honor. We look forward to seeing what the future holds for you. And that rounds the bases of this month's Board of Education Spotlight.
And Kirsten Deal is with us. Come on out and please be recognized. So exciting. Really proud. At this time, we will hear public comments on the agenda items. The instructions for this section were on the sign-up sheet. The most important rule to remember is that we ask you to be kind and respectful, and know that we cannot talk about sensitive or private student or personnel information in this public setting. You have 3 minutes to speak, and if you have more to share, always know you can email us directly. Thank you. Our first speaker is David Villada.
Good afternoon, everyone, as well. Once again, Chairman Kaplan and boards and Superintendent McManus. Here to speak on Ms. McManus's contract. I don't understand when was it that I ever met a superintendent that cared so much to our community, for our kids, for our people. I've been in North Carolina for 16 years, community activist for about 12 years, and it hurts to see the stuff that's going on, but to see her involved, willing to listen, to call, to email, to show up in the community, and really care and listen and give feedback means a lot to families, especially ones with a barrier, the Hispanic community that don't speak the barrier, who trust me to speak for them and relate. She's been there. Thank you so much. I expect that you continue to be here for us and for our community, and also here to speak upon the RFPs. I'm saddened that my RFP, for whatever reason, was not recommended. I had 27 other people, adults and kids that wanted to be here, but they were upset, and that's not what I'm about. I didn't want to bring them. I told them to stay, because if they would have came, I wasn't going to come. You guys gave us a chance, gave us an opportunity. The program was a success. There might have been issues amongst the administration, whoever, whatever. But if you guys don't understand what type of task force that my organization brings to the community, it's a wraparound embedded mentoring program in the school system, in the community, in the homes. We're doing case management. We're doing violence interruption. We're bending rules and regulations to the extent in the school systems to build a bond amongst teachers and students and peers. We have to give them a chance to change. You guys sometimes have issues keeping teachers in the school system, but imagine asking them to go into the communities and do what we do. The violence has plagued our communities and has become a health issue. Imagine asking doctors and surgeons to go into the homes and ask what's the problem, what's the issues. The JIT program and different law enforcement have been granted millions of dollars to fight the crime. We want to be preventive. We don't want to see those issues and problems anymore. Why is it that they can get millions of dollars to try to fix a problem that they and a lot of people have been talking about and trying to fix for years, and look where we're at now? The problem situation is worse. I ask that you guys consider my organization, my RFP, and please, whoever it takes, whatever it takes, give us a sit down, give us a chance to explain whatever issues, whatever situations that cause for us not to be considered. All we want to do is help. All we want to do is provide. It takes people like a task force that we've put together to continue to save these kids and these organizations that really care, that are embedded in the community, to make action. There's so many people that are being considered in that list that I don't even know who they are. That my families and my people were so upset, they wanted to come up here, and I said, don't, because it's not right. I ask that you guys please consider, have a sit down, revise, whoever it is it takes, consider the task force that we've put together to help everything you guys build, everything that you guys have put together for these kids all these years, so that we can help you guys help our people. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Lee Childress.
Good evening. My name is Lee Childress, and I just completed my 15th year in the district. I come before you tonight to show my support for our superintendent. Everything's not been perfect, but she cares. I saw that right after 2 days. It's just been 2 days. Our school was one of the first ones to go back. A lot of hurt, a lot of concern. She came. She walked around, she listened. She didn't say a lot, but she said, what can I do? At the time, I didn't know. But I said, what you can't do is sit in that glass tower on Haynes Mill Road and dictate. We need you in the trenches. She's come to the trenches. She has helped us. She has helped our students. She has helped our staff. And I can't think of anything better than to renew her contract. Okay? I will say this. There are concerns that have to be addressed. We have some mechanics back here tonight that are upset, and they'll talk to you later. There's a lot of work, but we need someone who knows what's going on. We need someone at the helm of that. Fully and 100% support her as our superintendent. Thank you.
Thank you. Nathan Parrish.
Good evening, Chair Kaplan and members of the board, Superintendent. Thank you for the opportunity again to speak this evening. And I come to speak regarding Policy 5117, which is an action item later in tonight's meeting. And I want to come tonight on behalf of the Coalition for Equity in Public Education, and to begin by just saying that, you know, more than a year ago, there was a lot in this community of energy, community grassroots-based conversation around the assignment policy and the way it impacts the character of our schools as well as the outcomes that we are seeing in our schools. And this conversation has been going on for decades, really, since 1995. And while I am here tonight, let me just simply lift up the name of my friend Carlton A.G. Eversley, who is no longer with us in this battle, but whose work for years helped inspire the work that we are doing today, seeking justice for all children in this community. The policy that we have before us today for review, we just simply do not feel has had sufficient opportunity to be seen and commented on and participated in by the public. I spoke 2 weeks ago at the board, and after the meeting became aware for the first time that a policy had actually been crafted on May the 10th and had been put out for public comment. I've learned there was no public comment on the policy. We sent some public comments in at the last minute once we found that this was going to be on the agenda. I don't think the lack of public comment is because the public is not concerned with student assignment. I think the public just simply doesn't understand the process or the procedures. It's confusing and generally unknown to people. We started this journey with some clear ideas about how cooperative strategies was going to, finalize reports, what role Bridges Collaborative was going to have, a school choice assignment committee that was a special committee. All of these things seem to have just fallen by the wayside and have, basically become administrative in nature. The policy that we are looking at tonight, we do not see how it can advance, generally speaking, the cause for greater equity in our school system. It essentially is a policy with a lot of language on the front end, but in the Section 3, it largely retains the basis on which we do assignment now, which is at the root of a lot of the problems that we continue to experience and have in this county. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Eunice Campbell.
Good evening, Board, Superintendent. I too tonight come to speak on the Student Assignment Policy 5117. About a little over 3 years ago, I was asked to sit on a committee, the Choice Committee, and we were giving opportunities to have meetings with school board members, and we were excited. We thought that there was an actual opportunity to make a change. After 25 years, they're actually looking at the school assignment and choice policy. And then almost 2 years ago, that moved over to an opportunity to be on the Bridges Collaborative Committee. I was excited. I eagerly gave my time to be a part because once again, I thought it would bring about a change in a policy that hadn't been touched in over 25 years and needed it. Here I stand tonight, woefully disappointed. Disappointed that the change to Policy 5117 has not been vetted to the community and has not been discussed in a general board meeting of the Board of Education. That's an important policy. It needs discussion. I want to hear what you all think about that, the change. It's been just in committee, so you're moving the committee straight to approval or vote without any discussion on it, and I'm not comfortable with that, and neither should anyone who cares about the choices that we're supposed to be having, because the one driving factor that is driving segregation in our schools has not been touched in that policy. I understand that you do have to change some verbiage because of the ESSER. I understand that part. But I'm asking that you take a step back, give the community a chance. And my frustration is driven by the fact that I feel like that my representatives for District 1 have not given us any talk to your people. Ask us how we feel before you make a decision. because it's not just your decision to make. It isn't just your decision to make. So I'm asking that you reconsider making an approval or even voting on policy 5117 until we actually can hear a discussion about it in a open board meeting, open community meeting, or just let us know exactly what you're trying to achieve, because you may not be trying to do anything major. Maybe this is just a placeholder because of certain verbiage you have to change. We don't know because we haven't been told. We're clueless. So if you could help us out by not adding to that frustration, that thinking that things are being done and you promised something else, I truly would appreciate it. My coalition would appreciate it, and I'm sure the public would appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next order of business is the superintendent's update.
Thank you. I just have one item to update, and that was just a quick update about our Leadership Institute, our Summer Leadership Institute that happened with all of our principals, assistant principals, and district staff the week after our students left for the summer. And so I just wanted to share with you. And on this slide, if you didn't have a chance to hear, we kicked off our institute with our valedictorian from Winston-Salem Prep speaking to our principals, and he has an amazing story, and it just set the stage for our institute on the right track, which was really about how do we make sure that every one of our students, you know, is highly connected and engaged in our schools, and that we are making sure that every one of them is successful. And the whole institute was about that. How do we advance toward that success for every single one of our students, no excuses. So that was pretty much, so just a few pictures. We have tons of PD sessions happening, you know, related to attendance. I mean, attendance is one of our major areas of focus going into next school year. Sessions on how we're going to implement the code of character, conduct, and support, and what is that implementation going to look like as we start back in the fall. And Kevin, go back one. Thanks, sorry, just keep going. You get the idea. Lots of collaboration and fellowship, and just a special thanks to the folks behind the scenes that made it happen, our HR staff, our team at Chartwell's and other staff behind the scenes that just made it a very special day for us. We also had the privilege of enjoying on the very last day the author of the book Culturize, which is Jimmy Casas. He was our keynote on the last day. Again, he ended the week just honestly, it was about, I loved, one of the things he says I think everyone relate to. When you get a package and it says handle with care, that is the expectation for all of our students. Put that sticker on them, handle with care, and that's where we're going to get to better outcomes for all students. So it was a great week. Just wanted to give you that quick update.
Thank you. Our next item is the superintendent's contract. One of our duties as a board is to evaluate the superintendent, and last week our board met to have Mrs. McManus's quarterly evaluation, and from that it was decided by the board to extend her contract to 2025. For one, to align with her 90 by 25 goal, and two, because she continues to put her all into her job, and as a result has greatly improved student outcomes. So thank you for that. Mrs. McManus has strengthened our district on so many levels. She's worked to build community relationships and trust among our educators and our dedicated staff. We are so fortunate to have her at the helm. Thank you. Would other board members like to comment or add?
So I'll just say thank you for for caring. You can really tell. I think we tell you all the time. Don't let Brent and his fabulous team script you. Only because it really comes out when you're just talking how much you really care about the work, about the staff, and about the students. And so we've served with many superintendents, and they have all, I think, been here when they needed to be for the work that they needed to do. And I think right now it's definitely Winston-Salem Forsyth County needs you in this role moving forward, and it's been a pleasure to work with you.
I think Dana kind of summed everything up. It really has been a pleasure working with you. And I think that our board made a wonderful decision when we got you here. So I, too, want to say thank you. I think the two gentlemen that came up said everything. You're everywhere. I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you have all the energy that you have, but bless you. You are everywhere, and we appreciate you.
Yes, we do.
Can I say something? If no one else is going to? Is anyone else going to, though? I don't know. I couldn't tell. I won't.
Yes,
rush
please.
it. If they were at the end, I was going to just say, no, I really just wanted to say thank you. It is an honor to serve in Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools and to work with an amazingly supportive board. I know there's hard decisions that you sit up here and make, and I always say you have to go vote your what you believe in, but you all have been extremely supportive, which is really important for a superintendent to be able to try to move forward. I will say I have an amazing team sitting out here and across this entire system that make this possible, but I will also say we've got a lot of work to do. You heard from community groups. We're going to hear from some of our employees later. You hear about, our choice, and we hear about so many different things around equity, and our outcomes have a long way to go. So I just want to paint a very clear picture that we're not going to rest until we really achieve excellence for every student. And so I know, and am very clear, and so does my team know, there's still so much work to be done in our system. I take this as I want you to know that this is an honor for me to move us toward the end of our strategic plan, which will this 5 years will be 2025. And we're up for the charge. I have, again, an amazing team, a supportive board. We have the best kids in the universe and the best employees, and just surrounded by a really invested community. It is unbelievable, the community support and just the investment in education in our community. So I just want to say thank you. I'm looking forward to it, and we're gonna get some great results for our city and our county so that you all can be very proud of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next discussion item is the Student Safety Filtering Grant presented by Kevin Sherrill, Assistant Superintendent of Information and Technology, and Kenya Rocker, our lead high school counselor.
Good evening, Chair Kaplan, board members, and Ms. McManus, our superintendent. So if you recall, a couple months ago, we came before you with an opportunity, a state-funded grant regarding a student filtering and monitoring solution that focuses on student safety around self-harm, cyberbullying, and those types of things, to where it's a technology platform that would enable our student services folks, not only at the district level, but at the school level, to identify kids that may be struggling in those areas. So we had a good discussion about that, and you guys gave me some homework, and we went back and did some homework on some of the things you wanted us to do. So we partnered with Kenya Rocker and Felicia Tubbs at our middle school level and Frederica Stokes, and we went out and talked to some students. And before I bring her up, I want to remind you just really quickly that there are 3 components of the platform that we've chosen through RFP, one of which is what the product is called Monitor, but that is our student filtering platform. So that is what I described, how it's monitoring web activity on their student-issued Chromebooks, their email, their Google Drive, their Office 365 platform, and all their cloud storage that we provide them from our district. The second component is called NetRef. Is the retail name of the product, but that is the Chromebook management, screen management piece that our teachers would like to have for managing content, managing websites as our students are using Chromebooks in the classroom. So it gives them just a one pane of glass to manage multiple screens as kids are using the devices in the classroom. And the third component is our Family Community Zone, which, as I mentioned to you a couple months ago, is just a family parent resource that gives additional information about cyberbullying, and it rates social media type apps that our kids are using, like Snapchat, Instagram, those kinds of things. And this gives our parents a resource to go to learn more about what our kids are using online these days. So those are 3 components, and I want to bring Kenya up to talk about how it went out at our schools. We visited with 3 middle schools, and we also talked to our Superintendent Student Advisory Council, which is made up of our high school students.
Yes, so I've had the pleasure of working with the Superintendent Student Advisory Council. throughout the year. And in each meeting, we always ask them, what are your concerns? What would you like your district leaders to address? And in every meeting, they mention mental health and mental health prevention. So we use that group at the high school level. And we spoke with students at Northwest Middle, Louisville Middle, and Kernersville Middle. And we asked each group 5 questions revolving around what they knew about internet safety, that the software, if it would monitor for cyberbullying, depression, potential suicide, how did they feel about that, in what ways did they think the district could detect threats to student safety and protect students. And kind of surprisingly, the middle school students and the high school responses were pretty similar. Most of the students thought that this was monitored already on student devices. And so they said, oh, well, we already thought this was happening. The overwhelming majority of students felt that if this was a way that their friends could get some help because they are aware that many of their friends may not reach out to an adult, they may not reach out to a counselor or a teacher, and they felt that in student writings, many times students would express things that could be flagged and could be brought to the attention of a counselor or a social worker, and the students could get help. So they thought it was a good thing. We asked the students about if they were worried about their privacy, and most students said, if it helps a student to receive some help, or if it's going to help one of my friends, I'm not worried about that. It's a school-issued device, and I use my school-issued device primarily for our schoolwork. So those were the types of comments that we received about using in a monitoring system, and they really just seemed to be appreciative of anything else we could do for prevention in mental health and student safety around mental health.
Thank you. Just a couple more slides. So talking with our vendor that we selected through our RFP process, they gave me some data on a school district similar to our size. So this is a 1-month snapshot of 30,000 plus devices that were analyzed, over 9 million pieces of data going through the system. 131,000 of those were caught by the filter, and of that, 8 to 10 per month at middle and high school level required some type of follow-up, whether a visit a student, go see a student, or something of that nature. So that looks like a lot of big numbers, but if you break down 8 to 10 per month on a district similar to our size, that could be kind of the gauge of what this workload may look like on some of these filtered responses that come out of email, Google Docs, on web searches, and those kinds of things that would be escalated to our district level counseling staff, Jonathan Wilson, his team from a security perspective, and then escalated to the school site administration should it deem necessary. So that's kind of the flow, how that would work. And if we would like to go forward with this, of course, we've got to work student services, security, and technology to build this workflow in the process of how we would do this going into the fall. And lastly, these are just some a really busy slide that I thought looked better than a long list of names. So I pulled all the school logos I polled a lot of my colleagues around the state of what they're doing with this, and these are some districts that are implementing either the system we chose or one like it. There's about 8 or 9 different software vendors out there that provide this type of service, and these are some of the districts around the state that are doing so. Again, this is state-funded money specifically for this purpose that we have available to us until September of 2024. So this would give us a 27-month, should we elect to move forward, a 27-month beginning July to September of 24, this service paid for by the state. So that's what I had to share with you. Any questions about where we are with this? Yes, ma'am.
Yes. This covers only Chromebooks or things that are distributed by the system. So if I'm in a classroom using my own device.
That's correct. So there's absolutely, we're not looking at personal devices. This is machine specific, meaning it's Chromebook specific for the student. There's a software extension that runs in the background of the Chrome OS that puts it into the portal for monitoring. So it's absolutely 100% machine device specific, and it will only be on our devices that we issue to our students. But then it looks at anything they do on that device on the web, a Google Doc, Office 365 doc, email, but it's from that device only.
So it's like if I'm using my school system iPad, that has nothing to do with anything else I
Correct.
use. And is there a alert to students that they are indeed being monitored? Is that
There's not an
part of
alert.
it?
I mean, obviously, we will communicate this should we go forward and send out communication to parents and staff that we're implementing the program of this nature. But there's not a pop-up that says, "Hey, you're being monitored each day." It's not to that level, no, ma'am.
Right. And again, part of my concern is I'm an old lady. And I read plenty of dystopian things as a young woman, and I do have a lot of concerns about surveillance societies and having people norming always being observed, because I do think part of our development comes from being unobserved, actually. So it would be very important to me to know that our students and anybody who is using one of these devices indeed is aware that they're being monitored, and that their privacy will not be infringed on.
Yes, ma'am.
If they are using devices that are not connected to.
Yes. Should we decide to go forward, I'll work with Brent Campbell and his team to do a communication campaign before we roll this out, so it's all, the parents wouldn't have any questions you might need to answer.
So the only thing that would be monitored is the Chromebooks that are distributed by our district.
That's correct.
Thank you.
So, on a board member Montsinger's concerns, is there a way to put on the Chromebook a message? I realize you're doing a one-time campaign, but is there a way when it logs in or it powers up that there's something that can come up? I've not been in favor of this from the beginning, and I'm still not. I do like the net referee. I understand when we're in the classroom for a teacher for classroom management purposes, but I still can't exactly understand on the back, like what specific things are students going to be saying that are then going to identify them and then maybe land them into that 8 to 10 category. And so out of that, in your research or the information, how many of those times really it's turned out to be nothing? So if Jonathan would call someone in, what are we at that point in time? I understand the social emotional piece, and maybe, but on the security side of it, what exactly are we going to say to the student? And I mean, what's that protocol look like? So I feel like we're being asked to vote on a tool, but I have no idea what it really is going to look like when maybe we have a threat. I can understand from our counselor position that they're going to reach out and try to provide, but if it's a security issue, we're pulling in the SRO, we're pulling in what happens to the student if there's things that are picked up that are not warranted?
I mean, Jonathan may want to come up, but I think in response to that, should we decide to go forward tonight, I think we need to come back to you going into next school year with our process flow. Here's how we would react to something before we implement it. Design the process flow, the alert system, how things will be responded to. Share that with you of how those incidents will be handled before we implement. I think that would be.
And see, I think that's reversed. I think sometimes, and it's not saying to you, Kevin. I appreciate you. I mean, this was out there, and you brought it to the district. I appreciate that, but I think there's several times on big investments that we make, and we vote on the tool, the product, but then comes how it's going to work, and by that time, it just seems to me it's reversed.
So to answer your question, without seeing any of the tips that may come through or the things that we might see, I don't know exactly how it would respond, but I think the last time I spoke to you, I attribute it to the same way that we would with a bully patrol tip or with a say something tip. So many of those things go to a counselor, and the school-based team would handle them. Law enforcement would not be pulled in until there was an imminent threat of a life or safety emergency, in which time we'd reach out to law enforcement or the SRO to intervene to keep the child safe. But again, the say something tips, even though law enforcement checks on those, I can't tell you one where a student was received any kind of criminal action based on that. And we received, I don't have the numbers, I wish I did, but we received hundreds, if not thousands, of say something tips already since we started that program.
Well, and I'm sorry, and I certainly don't say that to say that. I mean, I'm definitely pro law enforcement. I'm not saying that in a way like that. Again, it's just trying to understand the process. And I think my biggest holdup too is I really don't understand the what will be pulled in. You know, if a student is searching and something they say something one time, you know, the all of that's put in there, I just don't understand that. And I think to the end of it, I have, you know, and it even says in our contract the 24/7 human monitoring is the words in the contract, and that's just a lot for our students. So, but thank you.
Board Member Bramer.
I have two quick questions. One, and I can understand using going through the school-associated Google Drive, but they can easily log off the school and go into a private Google Drive and use a document that's used by members of their family or is taken out of context. Are you going to look at Google Drives that are not school-related but can be personal?
If they open that Google Drive on that school-issued Chromebook, we will see it.
So you can go through the entire drive.
It's whatever's opened on the Chromebook.
So every document, including parents.
If that document is opened on that Chromebook, then
so it's just the documents that are opened. It's not necessarily the whole drive.
If you would take your student's Chromebook and log into your personal Google Drive and type "I want to harm myself," then we would catch that because you used the student-issued Chromebook.
They could use other similar language. Second, I want to talk about the education of parents on social media. How is that going to go out, and what is the plan for when you name that social media? The first thing the student's going to do is drop and switch to another social media. So how are you going to flex around social media and educating the parents?
We are going to be using the service that we are purchasing. That we have no control of that service. It's their parent and community portal, and they control the content there. So, and they are on that every day. So when the next social media platform comes out for a student, whether it be TikTok today and Flip Flop tomorrow, then they'll update their site for that. And I'll just say this, you know, this is an opportunity, and obviously we'll follow the pleasure of the board on what we want to do with this. But this is something, as Ms. Jones said, that brought to you as an opportunity from the state. And is it perfect? It's probably not, but it is another layer of safety and support for our students that I understand might be questionable for some on the board and maybe some parents as well. But this is what we have before us, and if there's other questions, I'll be glad to take them and answer them the best I possibly can.
And so, I think one other thing, if I was concerned about the monitors, I'm a parent and of a school-age child, and I was concerned about this once the communication is rolled out, then can I at that point decide for my child not to have a school-issued Chromebook and provide my own?
Yeah, so our Chromebook one-to-one program there's always been an opt-out on that. So if a student wishes to not carry a student-issued device, they don't have to if they have their own device, and that's always been in place.
And will that be communicated into the communication, or I'd hope that would be communicated when we're saying that we're going to do the monitoring program, that hey, if you don't want this, then, you know, provide the...
That's a great point.
Provide the desire.
Absolutely
okay.
Can do that, yes.
Okay, Board Member Bramer.
I have some concerns around something you just mentioned. That's an equity issue because, I mean, people like me can afford another device and send it with my child and another person can't. So that's not going to be equal or equitable in any way.
I mean, from my understanding, I think we can do that now. From, you know, we can say I don't want to use this device. I want to use my own iPad.
Opt out this.
A lot of parents are opting out.
That is happening now, and that's just an option we give them. Some parents don't want the responsibility of the breaks and damages and loss because they have their own device to use. So.
Any other questions? And we can also make decisions just to go with 1, 2, or 3 of the components.
Yeah, on the components, the 2 paid components are the net ref and the monitor. The family community zone is just part of the package. It's not a fee against that one.
Okay.
So we need to Kelly Hales and I would just make sure that our federal grants will allow that. Other districts are purchasing pieces. Some are doing just the monitoring. A lot of districts are just doing the safety monitoring and not the screen management.
Okay.
Because there is a layer of operational support around the screen management. But I know our teachers need that, and they've asked for that, because when you've got 50,000+ devices being used every day, all day, every tool we can give our teachers to help with that is a good thing. So yes, we'll definitely go look at that as well. Yes, ma'am.
What kind of results are we getting from the Say Something?
Can you?
So we are trying to make sure that there's easy ways for parents, students, staff to report concerns, and I'm wondering, is that turning out to be a useful device?
Yeah, and if you remember, I was not so supportive of Say Something when it first came out, just because of the unknown, and the fact that the legislature said this is what you're going to do, and we really didn't have a choice. But I will say that I've been pleasantly surprised that it's been very successful. Most of the things that we see are mental health related and are handled from counselors and student services. And a lot of those things I don't even see. It comes to my office if it's a life and safety emergency, but if it's handled and it's just a tip specific to the school, my office does have the ability to see it, but it goes straight to the school-based team and it's handled that way.
So that seems to have been a very helpful thing in
Yes,
our
ma'am.
district.
Yes, ma'am. And I can say that we've had situations where students have had suicidal ideations and someone's responded to their house, spoke to them, and got them some help.
Thank you.
I want to back up on one thing to make sure I answered Ms. Board Member Jones' question. So yes, we could, although the software doesn't pop up and say, hey, you're being monitored, we can control the background of our Chromebooks. Right now it says WSFCS Chromebook or something like that. We could put a line, this device is monitored for cyberbullying or whatever statement we want to say there. We could embed that into the wallpaper of the Chromebook that our students can't change because that's locked down. So we could it could be on the screen every time they turn it on. So we could go to that level as well. Any other questions?
That would actually make me feel a lot better, making sure that when you opened it up, you saw that and you were reminded.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, Andrew Kraft, our Chief Equity and Accountability Officer, will present the contract with Unified Insights.
Thank you, Chair Kaplan, Superintendent McManus, members of the board. I do have a proposal for you tonight for a contract with Unified Insights. The Unified Insights provides a data dashboard. We have a data dashboard, but this is a much better product than what we have right now. And it actually combines two products into one to do both the data dashboard and MTSS components. So let me explain to you how we got to this point. And I also want you to understand why we picked this particular product and then how we're going to pay for it. Really no new money, same amount of money that we're paying right now for two different products. So what we did is we sought feedback from everyone, from teachers, from principals. We looked at the top platforms that are in the industry, and we spoke with other districts as well to get their input on what products they're using and how they're using it. And we sought input from central office leadership in these proposals. And the reason we picked Unified Insights is it does combine those two functions of a data dashboard and an MTSS platform. Right now we're doing those two components through two different products, and we're excited to be able to combine that into one product. This new product provides data visualization. Our current data dashboard does not. And it is a PowerSchool product, and that's really nice because what that means is data flows from PowerSchool directly to Unified Insights. In addition, we can do customization. That is, if there's data that's not found in PowerSchool, we can upload that data manually. And so here's the cost, and again, this is a great thing for us. You see that currently we have two products. One product is Performance Matters. That's our current data dashboard. And then we have a second product created by PCG. This is our MTSS platform. I've got Robin Varga on the call here if you have questions for her later on, but she talks over and over about the struggles she's had with PCG's platform. So you see our current cost. Now we're able to combine these two products into one, getting rid of Performance Matters and PCG's platform, replacing it with Unified Insights for about the same price. Right? So there's no new money involved here, and we're happy about that, but we get better product. So how would we go about doing the transition to this new product? There would be about a 4-month onboarding phase. In doing that, we need to get all the data loaded. We also need to do training for district personnel. And so what's nice is that Unified Insights, a product of PowerSchool, will allow us to continue with Performance Matters during this transition. So for our users at the school level, they will experience no change. They'll continue to have access to Performance Matters until we are fully ready to integrate and bring on board Unified Insights. And that would be our plan for transitioning. Guys, that's all the information I have for you. I have 2 representatives from Unified Insights. They're on the call if you had questions for them. As I said, Robin Varga is also with us. Do you have any questions?
No questions? Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And Andrew Kraft will also present the Alternative Accountability Model.
Thank you, Chair Kaplan. Yep. Every year I bring to you the Alternative Accountability Model for our district. I'm bringing you the exact same proposal again this year. Let me pull that up here. Kevin, we are right there. I got it. No problem. Kevin's got a lot of jobs over there, and we're grateful for him. So, sorry. Yes, the Alternative Accountability Model, which affects very specific schools within our district. You see these 6 schools which would be impacted by the Alternative Accountability Model, and you have really 2 decisions to make. The first decision you have to make is, do we want these schools to have a school performance grade and an alternative progress measure, or just a school performance grade? The second decision you have to make is, what do we do in the case of one of these schools having insufficient data in any given year? So again, we're proposing the exact same thing we proposed for the last, as long as I've been in this position, 6-7 years. You have 3 options: that school performance grade plus the alternative measure based on the state formula, or we were to write our own formula. So by the way, our district was actually a key voice in the creation of the state formula. That's why we recommend to you option B. We think the school performance grade doesn't do a great job at reflecting the work that our alternative schools do, so we think it's appropriate for them to also have an alternative measure, and that formula is based on work that we gave input to DPI on. So for that reason, we're recommending option B. So they would have a school performance grade, if it's a pleasure of the board, and that alternative measure for these schools. The second decision you have to make is what to do if there's insufficient data. And that would happen because, these schools are small and they may not have enough students in any given year to have enough data to create that school performance grade. So you have 2 options in that case. One would be to return the scores back to the home school for those students. The other option would be to use 3 years worth of data to calculate that school performance grade. It's our recommendation that you would return the scores to the home school or the base school, and then that alternative school would get the school performance grade from the school where the majority of their students came. And you see that I surveyed the principal here, and the majority of our alternative schools principals want to go with option A there. A fewer of our traditional school principals want to go with option A. And then when you look at option B, right, you've got about 40% of our alternative school principals that voted for option B, while 70% of our traditional schools principals voted for option B. And so it's our recommendation for these schools. And by the way, I've highlighted 2 of them. It's unlikely, based on historical results, for most of these schools to ever have insufficient data. You may find that happening at the special children's school. Now, it's possible for any of them, but it's unlikely. So chances are this doesn't apply to many of these schools. And if it does, it's a very small number of scores that might get returned to the home school. So for that reason, we're recommending that if there is insufficient data for any of these schools, those scores get returned to the home schools, and then their school performance grade is calculated based on the home school where the majority of the students reside. I think that's all I have for you. Any questions?
Okay. Thank you so much. Next, Jonathan Wilson, our Chief Safety, Security, and Emergency Management Officer, will present the 2022-2023 security contracts.
Good evening again, Chair Kaplan, Board, and Ms. McManus. I have the pleasure this evening to present to you the security contracts for the coming school year. But before I get to that, I want to introduce a couple of visitors that I have here in the room. So if you wouldn't mind, when I call your name, if you can stand up. With Colonial Police Department, I've got Captain Tilley and Lieutenant Merritts. We have, with the Forsyth County Sheriff's Office, Captain Mathey and Mr. Randy Hunsucker. And with North State Company Police, I've got Chief Bill Comer and Sergeant Myers and Officer Nichols in the front and the back of the room. And so I just want to say this has been a really difficult school year as students came back, and these folks have done a fantastic job. Law enforcement in itself is a tough job, and being a school resource officer and serving the schools has been a really is a tough job. So I just want to, if we could, give these folks a round of applause for what they do. So with that said, I'll jump right in. I'll be brief. Forsyth County Sheriff's Office has served the district, I think, since 2009. In 2011, the Winston-Salem Police Department came in and started serving the schools within the city limits of Winston-Salem. But after the year of COVID in 2021, Winston-Salem Police Department exited the SRO program, and all of our schools, with the exception of those in the city limits of Kernersville, are served by the Forsyth County Sheriff's Office. So this year's contract with the Sheriff's Office is for $3.8 million. It's for 31 SROs, 3 corporals, 3 sergeants, 1 lieutenant, and 1 captain, and that's Captain Bethea in the back of the room here. It's to serve 12 middle schools, 13 high schools within Forsyth County. It includes 25 assigned officers, 2 specific schools, and 6 roving officers that can be moved around as needed. The Kernersville Police Department is for $610,000. That's for 5 SROs and 1 sergeant. Lieutenant Merritt's is not on our payroll, but his Sergeant Deeney is. That's for 3 middle schools and 1 high school within the city limits of Kernersville. And it is 4 assigned officers, 1 for each one of those schools, and 1 roving officer. And I would add that Kernersville Police Department, out of the kindness of their heart, throws in an additional rover for us to serve our schools. The duties and responsibilities of SROs, again, we have 1 SRO assigned per school, with the rovers giving us the ability to shift additional resources around as needed, and those are needed on a daily basis. So you may have a need for one school needs 2 officers, and another school needs 1, but you can move the folks around as needed. If you remember, in 2021, we clarified what the program would look like, and we chose a Triad Model, and the Triad Model is basically law enforcement security, law enforcement related student counseling, and law-related education. I want to point out that SROs and school law enforcement relationships are a first line of prevention and security, and is not punitive. We handle all of our own disciplinary issues with school staff. The contract language continues to include language such as educate students, counseling students, individual group discussions. I will tell you that this past school year, our SROs have attended an SRO principal training, so that principals and SROs are on the same page and they know what each other are doing. They've attended social emotional learning training. They've attended the behavioral threat assessment training. They have involved in restorative practices. And in the coming days, they're going to be trained on the new code of conduct and character. Our 2023 security contract with North State is for $364,603. It's 2 parts to that. It's night security. The night security and patrol is comprised of 2 officers. These 2 folks that are in our corners of our room here patrol our campuses each and every night. They respond to any alarms that occur between 6 p.m. and 5 a.m. That allows our principals and our school staff to get a good night's rest so that they can do their jobs the next day and don't have to go out and answer alarms. They get multiple alarms each and every night across the campus, or across the district, and they serve as a key holder. So their main job is to provide security for our after hours events. They provide our board security. If I call them and say, hey, Dr. Alexander locked her pocketbook in the office and she needs to get in, can somebody go out there and make sure that she's safe as she goes into the building? They do that. They help us patrol our streets and make sure that the roads are ready, along with our transportation staff, as after storms or during weather-related events. And the administrative security provides for 1 unarmed security officer. You all have met him when you come into central office. Mr. Woody is there from 7:30 to 4:30. He follows our 12-month staff's calendar, and he actually can be moved from that office to this office, and as we open up new facilities, maybe he's in those as well. But they basically monitor, patrol, and support the security of all our administrative sites to make sure that the campuses are ready for school and students to return the next day. So So our recommendation is to approve the security contracts to be funded from the 22-23 safety and security budget, and this will support our strategic goal number 5. Any questions?
Board Member Jones?
I just had, so how much have the contracts increased?
So from the previous year, I have the figures here. I didn't do the actual math, but so last year the Sheriff's Office was $3.5 million, and it's now at 3.8. Carnesville Police Department, for the past 3 years, they've not gone up. We went from 588 to 610, and North State's contract has increased overall from I don't have that. I didn't do my math, but it went up from, the night security went from 211 to 317, and the administrative security went from 37,000 to 46,000.
Board Member Motzinger?
Yeah, thank you so much. So are these increases pretty closely tied to inflation, or is it an increase in security numbers?
I can't speak, maybe if these folks maybe want to add on to why the cost goes up, but I would say that the recruitment of officers is very difficult these days. They're having to pay more to get officers to even come and take the job. I wouldn't want to be in law enforcement these days. And I know that our night patrol contract had to increase because their pay rate was lower than it needed to be. Plus, they're spending a whole lot of money on gas patrolling our campuses, and the gas prices obviously has gone up. So to provide that traveling across the district to answer alarms, you may go from West Forsyth to East Forsyth and up to Old Richmond in a shorter period of time. So there is definitely inflation that's pushing it up.
So I just wanted to know on the increase in costs that this is not a big increase in numbers of person. It's
No, it is not a large increase in persons.
all right. The other question I had is about the language, because I know previously we had talked about the contractual language about what SROs are responsible for, and I know that in all communities there's a heightened sense about our SROs contractually required to intervene in the instance of a school shooting. I mean, I know that we all were heartbroken by what happened in Uvalde, Texas, and I wanted to make sure that our language includes that this is a protection for the people in the building in addition to people who are policing the building. And I do understand that if there were an armed shooter, of course you need to have a massive response from law enforcement. But previously our language did not include that specifically, and I wanted to know, have we addressed that in our contract?
Well, yes, ma'am. Well, I will say that if you look at, and I don't know if you have it in front of you, but in section 6,
could you pull it up?
Letter E, I can't pull it up. I don't have it to pull up, I'm sorry. But it just specifically says that in E, that protect lives and property for citizens and public school students.
We don't have the contract.
Right. Yeah, we don't have
we have the PowerPoint presentation, or I don't, but is it in the, look in the action items?
Right.
Okay, is it attached there? Gotcha. Now I got it.
I'm very concerned about making sure that the assumption that we and the public has about what an SRO would do in the event of an active shooter is that it is clearly specified that they will indeed, for example, go into a classroom if necessary.
So Captain Bethea, I think, would like to speak towards that.
Good evening, everyone. The first thing the SRO will do is go directly to that threat. That's our main goal, to protect and educate our students once we're on campus. We will go directly to the threat, where the threat might be in the building.
Okay. Is there a way of adding that into the contract language? And it's not that I distrust you. Please, it's not that I distrust you. I just know that there's so much concern in our community all across the country about making sure that that expectation is really clear. And I'm wondering if it's possible to put that exact language into the contract.
I may add a couple words here. Looking at the current version of the contract really quickly, or maybe mention more than this, but it does say that the SRO officers are the first line of prevention and security in one section, and then in another section, they will protect lives and property for citizens and school students and staff.
Yeah, we addressed this the last time we did the contracts last year.
Right. No, I understand, and it wasn't as clear last time, and now it's clearer. And I'm just wondering, how explicit can we be? And I loved what you said about that we would directly confront a threat, and I wanted to be explicit. I'm a great believer in what is in writing is what you really hold as your standard. And so I am pedantic and annoying, and I understand that. But my preference would be if we could add that language so that it is extremely clear that that's the contract we're signing, that that's the expectation of the board, that that's the expectation of an SRO who chooses to work in our schools, and that the community has that reassurance that we've made that really clear, that that's what we're counting on the brave people who are taking on this work, that they will indeed do that.
I'm satisfied that it's clear, and I don't think we need to say that a police officer needs to take a bullet to prove their worthiness of this position. So I'm satisfied with the current language.
And I don't think that I asked for the language to say, please take a bullet. I think that it was well expressed that we will directly address any threat. And I think that that was clear and would be language that would feel good for the people in our community to have written into the contract.
I say? Mm-hmm. I just want to say, Board Member Monsinger, just to clarify why it's probably not any more specific than it is because law enforcement doesn't discuss what their tactics are as far as active shooters or active assailants in any way as how they would actually respond. I can tell you the day after Uvalde, I received phone calls from all law enforcement agencies in this county, including the Winston-Salem Police Department, to be very clear with me that there would be no hesitation and that was not their training practice, that they would go to a threat and eliminate that threat at the time that it occurred and the time that the first officer responded to the scene.
Yeah, and I understand that part of what's heartbreaking about what happened in Uvalde, as well as Parkland High School and in other schools, has been that it was not anybody who intended to not respond, right? These people's intention was not, I'll run away or I won't respond, but it is indeed what has happened, and that worries me. And I feel like I would just like the explicit language that you shared, that's the expectation, because again, I think when language is very explicit and clear, it helps everybody. That's my own preference, and people who have seen me here for all these years know that I am just a real stickler for precision when it comes to language and contracts.
Board Member Jones?
Well, so I am good with the language. I'm very proud of the law enforcement partners that we have here in Forsyth County, the Sheriff's Department, Kernersville Police Department, and the Winston-Salem Police Department, though they're not providing SROs. And so I just want to thank you all for the services that you all provide to our schools and to our staff and our community in general. And also just wanted to note, and maybe this is something we can talk to the county about at some point, but we talked about an extra roving officer in the Kernersville contract, and I know from way back in the day that that's supported, and that was supported by Mayor Morgan and of Kernersville and that Board of Aldermen. And so, they foot that bill in a sense because the school district's not paying for that. And so I think for the sheriff's department, obviously they have to pay their employees, but maybe that's, at some point that could be something that we could consider talking to the county about if they could help cover some of that for us as well. I know it's kind of a pass-through of dollars, but they support the sheriff's department, and I think it's nice when municipalities and counties can step up and help with some of that cost for the school district.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
I'd like to add one more thing if I could.
Oh,
the
sure.
SRO just went through 8 hours of active shooter training this past 2 weeks ago, and we are performing our duties as much as we can. We have very knowledgeable and talented SROs in this district. I would say we have the best. I'm not saying because I'm the commander, but we have the best SROs in this nation. And I want y'all to keep on supporting us, and we're, again, here to protect and serve our students.
And please understand, I am in no way questioning the goodness of your intention.
Yes,
and part of it is that our language used to not include protection. And so I feel very strongly about making sure that we're really clear in our expectations. And I know that you care for our students, and I appreciate that.
Thank you so much. Next, Kelly Hells, our Chief Federal Programs Officer, will share with us the RFP review and the list of recommended service providers.
Good evening, board members, Superintendent McManus. For a couple months now, we've been sharing with you the process of engaging the community in a way to meet some unmet needs that our schools have. So the RFP opened let me go with the purpose. So the purpose is the unmet needs. The RFP had 3 specific categories: before and after school services, strategic tutoring services, and student mentoring services. So our RFP engaged the community, and also it allows us to meet federal requirements with uniform grant guidance for procurement. So we were able to meet a couple needs through the RFP or the formal bid process. So we opened the RFP process in April. It was open for 4 weeks. We engaged a review committee that was comprised of principals, representatives from instructional services and student services, and also area superintendents. 42 proposals were submitted, and we used a scoring evaluation rubric for each component that was included in the RFP. Once the board takes actions on the recommendations, we will share the list with principals and school improvement teams. Your approval is not to issue contracts. Your approval is to allow the schools to be able to see the services that have been vetted with these providers. And then school improvement teams with principals will be able to see, are the services that are being offered, will it meet the needs of their schools? One of the reasons why we engaged in strategic tutoring is this past year, some of our schools had a difficult time finding tutors, our own teachers. They were tired. Students were tired. And so we had requests from principals, what are some other options? So Dr. Pratt, area superintendents, asked us to include strategic tutoring within an RFP process, again, to give school choices. They're not required to use any of the service providers that the RFP committee is recommending. Once the board takes action, we will then plan multiple opportunities where principals and school improvement teams can meet these individuals who said they can provide services. That will be communicated to those who are approved with your action. John Mann, through Procurement Services, will send communication, as he does with all formal bids, and let them know information about opportunities to meet with our principals. We had hoped to have that opportunity at summer leadership where all our principals are together and school improvement team members, but timing just didn't allow to give more time for our community to engage in submitting proposals. Once school improvement teams and principals elect to use their funding, their ESSER funding, then they'll enter into individual contracts with those providers. So the funding that schools will receive is similar to what they've received for the 21-22 school year, and that is what we called ELP, or Extended Learning Program funds. For the coming school year, we will expand that to ELP and enrichment. We know that some schools may be wanting to address, as we heard previously, the sense of belonging, connectedness to the school community, and one way is through student mentoring. We're also going to allow those funds to be used for schools for those enrichment pieces as well. So this is just to get us started with resources for our principals and school improvement teams. So the recommended service providers for before and after school are listed here for you. To share with you, we received 15 submissions for before and after school care, and we are recommending 8 based on the rubric that was in the RFP and what we followed. We also had 9 providers or service providers that applied for multiple categories. So we had some for after school care and tutoring or other combinations. For our strategic tutoring services, we received 17 submissions, and the committee is recommending 12. And then for student mentoring, we received 10 submissions, and we are recommending 7. We do have MWBE represented in each of our categories. We know that that's a strategic plan goal as well, so through this process we will be able to address that area. So with that, we have provided that information. Please know until there's action taken, we are still in an active RFP. And so I know some have asked for some feedback. We're not able to give that yet. However, once the board takes action, that will be part of next steps, and individuals can ask information about their proposal to John Mann, and then information from the review committee can be shared at that time. Questions?
Board Member Bohannon.
Thank you. So, Kelly, I had some questions around the sort of process relative to the selection of the individual firm based on just some feedback I received about how the certain firms historically have been assigned to certain schools, and I wanted there to be some diversity there. I just wanted to say that I appreciate that there are multiple firms on each list so that there's a variety to choose from, so we won't have that, I think, just inherently, because I think with the diversity of the amount of firms, we'll have some stuff spread around, so that's going to be good. So I appreciate this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more? Okay.
A couple of questions. The feedback that will be given to those organizations that were not approved, how supportive will that feedback be so that they can get on the list, since essentially they're not being awarded any money, they're just being approved to be on a list?
So the feedback that was collected, they will receive their compiled score. The score was based on the rubric for each of the 3 components. And then if the committee members provided specific feedback, that will be included of what John Mann can share.
Okay. I guess I would just maybe ask the superintendent to assist in trying to make sure that any of the organizations that would like to get on the list very clear about meeting those obligations in order to get on a list, which then principals would, or schools would have the autonomy to then decide. Another question I have is about possibly a rolling RFP schedule, meaning this is not just a one-time RFP process. Are we considering multiple times in the year when we will send out the RFP for organizations to try to get on the list?
So the RFP is for the coming school year, the 22-23 school year. It does say in there it can be individuals who are offered contracts that could be renewed, but I do think going into the following school year, we can certainly open up another RFP. I'll consult with John Mann just to make sure of that. I've consulted with John Mann and Dion through the process of the formal bids.
Okay, and then my last question, is there any way that you can provide maybe a synopsis of the organizations that have been approved? Because I'm not familiar with all of them on each list. Like, I'm familiar with some, but not others, that I would be interested in kind of knowing who is in control of that group, and that, you know, what their specialty or what their uniqueness is, that maybe principals would want to use them versus maybe another organization.
So I do not have the information on every provider at this time. What the committee did recommend, and we had principals on the committee, is that when the board does take action and we release the list, each group would have a profile, if you will, indicating pertinent information. Do they offer tutoring virtually? Do they offer it in person? So that principals working with their school improvement teams are able to at least possibly narrow down from a list initially for them to then look in specifically into others, since there are multiple options on the list. So yes, that will be something that is created.
I guess, Dion, my question is, why couldn't we see the profile before we vote on them? Is there something about that's... Yes.
Correct.
Okay, it seemed like maybe there was an issue with, we have to take a vote first and then we would see the profile. And so what I'm sort of reserved about is some of these, I mean, I'm not saying that, I'm not questioning their judgment about what's on the list, but some of the companies I've never heard before of in my life, and just would like to have some type of sentence or two about who started it, what they're doing, something.
So Dr. Woodbury, it was not waiting for board action at all. It was just a resource in the planning that would be provided. So we can absolutely put that together sooner than what was planned. It's just that I don't have it with me tonight.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I think it would be good to see some background information on the companies, like you said, some you hadn't ever heard of or anything like that, so that we've got some history or something to go by. That would be most helpful to me.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Next, Paula Wilkins, Executive Director of Project Impact, will give us a Project Impact update.
Good evening, Board Chair Kaplan, Vice Chair Calvert-Hayes, Superintendent McManus, and members of the board. I am excited to be able to just recap 6 years of history tonight as we reflect on Project Impact's founding and its support to the school district. To get us started, I'd like to invite the board chair for Project Impact up, Janet Wheeler, and I'm going to brag about Janet for just a second. She has been the board chair for Project Impact since it was started back in 2016. Originally a chemist at R.J. Reynolds, served there over 30 years. And one thing that has just always impressed me about Janet is just her love for children and her commitment to see our district and our community, to support them through both innovation and to put money towards transformational change to help our students in our school district. So I'm going to invite Janet to get us started.
Good evening to Chairman Kaplan and Superintendent McManus and the board. And thank you, Paula, for the very lovely introduction. As she's indicated, I am Janet Wheeler, and I'm chairman of the advisory board for Project Impact. And on behalf of the advisory board, on behalf of our community partners, and on behalf of our youngest learners, I bring you greetings. It's an exciting time for Project Impact, even though we're transitioning. But in 2016, we came together to launch this community commitment with the goal of improving literacy rates and close the achievement gap in third grade reading scores among our youngest learners in Forsyth County. Today, even though we are at the end of the initiative, and even though we have an awful lot of work to do and an awful lot of work to continue, we still have a lot to celebrate and to be proud of. And as indicated in our 6-year summary report, we have funded and provided support to expand access to pre-K, support more than 1,400 students through Pathway to K and Pathway to 1. We've funded science and reading trainings for more than 1,000 kindergarten teachers. We've helped fund early learning partners and pre-K coaches. We've funded materials for kindergarten, first and second grade. And then we've launched Reading Warriors, a tutoring program. So overall, we've been able to impact over 8,000 lives through seed funding through Project Impact. And we're very, very proud of that. And those are accomplishments that you can also be proud of. So I would like to personally thank Superintendent Tricia McManus for her commitment to our youngest learners and her vision of 90 by 25. She has been consistent in her message and truly a partner in our ongoing efforts. I'd also like to thank the board for your commitment and your continued support. I mean, I can remember when, before the pandemic, past Chair Woodbury attended every meeting that we had, even our strategic planning meeting, and that was supporting the board. And she was supporting the board on your behalf. And Chairman Kaplan, we invite you to come and join us anytime you would like to.
Thank you.
And so also I'd like to thank Paula Wilkins, our executive director, who is really dynamite and just continues to work hard to make sure that our youngest learners get the best that they can be. And so on behalf of the community, all of our partners, it's really heartwarming when you can bring a group of business leaders together, a group of community advocates together, and the school system together to work on such an important initiative. And as I always like to say, none of us is as smart as all of us together. And so we appreciate everything that has happened in this community, and we certainly appreciate the school system and how they have partnered with Project Impact. So I'll turn it over to Paula, who will give us an update. Thank you.
And I promise I'm going to be brief in the comments. Can you hit? Oh, I can hit it. Thanks. So this is just a very simple infographic to just highlight some of the key areas and points of progress for Project Impact over the 6 years. To be able to impact over 8,000 educators, families, and students, I don't think is an easy feat. And as Janet just mentioned, the work is not done. There's so much work left to be done. I think what we can celebrate is that we did continue to get started. We made some momentum. We learned a lot of lessons that we can hold on and moving forward and taking those lessons in a way to make even more meaningful impact. And so I lean into that hope of opportunity because we can't lose that as we proceed forward in serving our children. And so I just want to share quickly a summary video. It's the short version about the impact of Project Impact over the past 6 years to just highlight from educators, from those boots on the ground who have been served by the funding through both positions, through programming, and through just supports, because that's what it's all about. And when we think about change, that's where the transformation happens. So, Kevin, roll.
This is a reflection of 6 years of the investment of Project Impact to serve over 8,000 families, students and educators in Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools. This is the story of the journey and the learnings along the way.
Your name is Ryan. How many pauses do you hear when we say your name, Ryan? You want to clap it out first? Let's try it. How many times did you clap? Right. Where's your vowel sound? There we go. What word did we make? What word did we make? Lick. Lick. How do we spell lick? Start again. Good. So we have lick. Turn lick into tick. Tick. What sound are we switching? First sound, you're both on it.
Well, the Pathway to K program was started to bring the students into school before kindergarten to get them acclimated to the school setting, to the school expectations and everything that was going to start happening in August when they entered school. And then we added on the Pathway to One program because we tend to see right as school's getting ready to end, those students that they're just now, the light bulbs are going off, they're starting to get it, and we always just want a few more weeks, just a few more weeks.
So that came through Reading Research to Classroom Practice, and through a grant we were able to offer that 5-day training. You have the cost of subs, the cost of the trainers that Project Impact covered, and those were all the foundational skills that teachers needed to know about how children learn to read.
I totally agree that it's not a program, that it's approach to teaching.
Cool it. Cool it. A clip. Let's do it again. Cool it. And CL, what do we hear? Oh, we hear. And oh. So for instance.
So Reading Research to Classroom Practice kind of opened the door for teachers then to say, okay, we've heard what best practice looks like. We know what great instructional methods are. Now, what resources do we have to support that in our classrooms? You talk about a strong scope and sequence. Where do I get that from? So that is where we found Hegarty. And so Hegarty has a strong emphasis on phonemic awareness. And so teachers were able to, between 10 and 12 minutes a day, use Hegarty in their classrooms as a way to build phonemic awareness.
Ooh, ed. Ooh, ed. Ooh, eight. Ooh, eight. Play. Ill. Ill. Still. Ooh, up. What is it? What is the first sound? Ooh, up.
Reading Warriors is important to the community because, from my viewpoint, it has really energized people to want to get involved and be active in turning around a lot of the learning loss from the pandemic.
We put a request into Project Impact for some funding to purchase elementary literacy curriculum. It had been, goodness, almost 18 years since the district had done a full-wide adoption, and each school was kind of using different things, and we did not have a unified curriculum across the entire district. And so thanks to the funding from Project Impact, we were able to purchase a district-wide curriculum, Wonders, for all of our elementary schools. And without Project Impact, we could not have started that initiative to make sure all of our students had equitable access to science of reading-based literacy. So
I have enjoyed the second year of implementing Wonders in the classroom. For example, this week we're doing OR, so they're learning all the sounds for OR, making those connections. And I'm asking them throughout the day, read that list of words. And so I see my kids, when they have a break in between learning, they're pulling out their list, word list, reading those, and also making that connection for what we're teaching in the literature anthology.
having all of those pieces are critical, and Project Impact has helped us with professional development through the Reading Research to Classroom Practice training, with the curriculum resources and Wonders, and also with coaching with our early learning partners. And so it's important that the teachers have those standards-based curriculum, which we now have the professional development on how to use it, but we can't just stop at that one PD or a few PDs. Professional development. We need to make sure that there's somebody in the schools alongside the teachers going in on a regular basis, providing coaching support as they plan their lessons, as they teach their lessons. And so Project Impact has helped us to fund the curriculum, the professional development, as well as the coaching. And all of those have to work together to make sure literacy is going to improve for the students in Winston-Salem.
That in a time of need in a school district, that just the generosity of our community was so evident through the work of Project Impact. I mean, as I think about it, and I wasn't here when Project Impact started, but to think that, we had a time of need and the community rallied around to raise both in monetary contributions, but also in-kind contributions, over $25 million as an investment of our students. When you think about that, all I can say is thank you so much, because it's made a huge and an everlasting impact for our students in Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools. So thank you so much to Project Impact.
So I think that sums it up in thinking about 6 years and what a difference can make. And so as I close out, I just have a few quick updates, because I'm sure you're asking, Project Impact is ending. What's next? What happens to Reading Warriors? Nothing. It will be well rooted in our district. So as one of the next steps, Project Impact will continue to provide the funding to help us reach our 90 by 25 goal, with Reading Warriors as an additional layer of support to help with continuing this initiative over time. We're working to expand some support personnel for training and for some additional monitoring and feedback and coaching for our tutors, because just like we know teachers need support, we want to make sure we're providing that with tutors. And later in the fall, we'll give you some year one evaluation updates from Project Impact, not Project Impact, from Reading Warriors, which we're really excited about, just the initial implementation. They will also to continue to fund the executive director salary as a support to the district in the transition out of Project Impact, to help support the superintendent as we work on the strategic plan goals moving forward as well. We will also be working with the Winston-Salem Foundation and the advisory board to make some recommendations on the remaining funds, which are a few $100,000 still left from the initiative and all the funds that were already raised. And then we're going to use and harness everything we learn to be able to do it better as we continue to ask our community to invest with us in our children, which is our most valuable resource. So questions?
Board Member Motzinger?
Not a question so much as a comment, which is how grateful we are as a community to have your commitment, Paula, to the work that you have done both as a principal, as a central office person, and as the leader of Project Impact. And my request is, please, after this year, come back to us. Don't leave us, because we need you here in Winston-Salem, Forsyth County Schools.
I am committed to this community, and
she's still on our payroll. They're just paying for it, but you're one of us. She's an employee.
You're not leaving us. I'm just trying to be very clear.
I am committed to the work.
Thank you.
Good smart answer.
Anybody else?
I just wanted to again thank just Project Impact and the board with, of course, chaired by Ms. Wheeler and so many of the other folk on the Project Impact board. Of course, Paula has, been a great asset for this initiative. And in my opinion, as an educator, I think that this project is a game changer for our school district as it relates to trying to do something about advancing literacy. And I think that we are very, grateful, or should be very grateful for this opportunity, because a lot of school districts just, could not even imagine, the community coming up with this amount of funds to help us with literacy. I think, of course, then the burden is for us to show results. And I think that once we can, slide into 2025, then, the community will, be very satisfied. And I anticipate that absolutely. And one of the suggestions, just from my personal view as one of the reading warriors, is I have talked to groups in the community about the awareness of reading warriors, like some of the church groups in the community or some of the other auxiliary groups. You know, they did not have a lot of knowledge around reading warriors. So I don't know how we can be more intentional through the school district with Project Impact to really try and go to more of the maybe grassroots organizations and churches to try to get more awareness and hopefully more reading warriors.
So I'll respond to that, and I want to give a great shout out to my intern for this summer, who is Alicia Washington, and she is a rising senior at Reynolds, and so that's cool. One of her tasks. She's #1 in the class too. That's one of the tasks she's working on, is a recruitment plan for reading warriors, how we can do some community engagement group work. She's working on thinking about TikTok videos, things that will get some young folks. We're also engaging in some partnerships with universities to get college students that need both work study and volunteer hours. And so we're working on that as well. So I'm with you. We got started last year, and so now it is taking root and getting even more folks engaged with us to do this work, because the more warriors we have with us, the more support students get and the more connection. So we're right there with you.
Thank you.
Thank you
so much for everything. Next, Leslie Alexander, Chief HR Officer, will update us on the ESS contract and give us a vacancy update.
Chair Kaplan, School Board, Superintendent McManus, I have a very quick update on vacancies and where we are with our ESS contract. Okay, so I'm just breaking this down so you can see, big picture. We have about 271 classroom vacancies right now. That's about 70 more than we had last year. You can see the breakdown by level, approximately 100 at elementary and middle, 75 in high school. Update on classified positions. We're doing a little bit better with our bus drivers this year, so that's great. Our TAs, we have a few more of those this year, so we need to recruit there. This is the first year we've tracked kitchen assistants, but we have 132 openings for kitchen assistants currently. We've attended about 70 recruiting events this year. The last recruitment fair was digital or virtual, and that was last week. So we had double the numbers this year than we did the year before. So we're hoping that we'll start to see some of those candidates being processed in the upcoming week. We also have an Alternative Pathways to Teaching webinar happening on July 7th. We're also going to do a chat with the recruiter to target candidates in Guilford and Lexington, and then we're increasing our social media campaigns as well. These are our operational recruitment efforts. We have a operational career fair at Reynolds Gym on the 14th at 2 p.m. We also have a video, little slideshow that plays at DMV, and I'm not going to play it for you right now, but you'll have access to this PowerPoint, so you can look at that later if you would like to. We're also going to increase our press releases, and we've got a huge presence in the downtown Winston-Salem bus stations and local bus parking lots. All right, so a real quick overview with our ESS contract. I talked to you guys in March about where we were with ESS. Given the need of where we are with our subs, since we're still up with vacancies this year, we are reviewing where we are with ESS. We made some recommendations and some requests from them, and I just want to give you an update on the progress so far. So our fill rate this year actually was 1% higher than years past. I'm going to show you month by month what that looks like. So you can see that we're about 2,000 above where we were, but our fill rate is up 1%. So, overall, that's still good. We do want to shoot for 95% fill rate, so they've analyzed their sub database. They have about 1,000 in there that were hired this year. 966 are considered active, which means they've worked in the past 90 days. It's really that 787 that we're looking at, though, because those have worked within the past 30 days, and we need to recruit an additional 241 to hit that 95% target. They have about 320 new applicants that have submitted an application. 225 of those are additional 225 are simply waiting on a background check or an orientation. So they are heading in a good direction with regard to where that's headed. One of the things we asked them to do was a more intensive training program, and so we now have a 3-day training program that was combined or created as a combined effort of ESS and WSFCS. And the people that are leading that, you probably recognize a few names in there, past educators and principals in the county, so they're helping us with that. One of the things we did not have last time that we wanted to incorporate into our data is how do the subs feel about working for ESS? So we were able to get in touch with about 454 subs, and these were their responses. So overall, 88% of them are very satisfied with the weekly pay. That's one of the big things that they like about ESS. So they do admit that at first there was some concern about payroll and communication and system navigation, but we're seeing improvements there. And really what we're hearing is they like access to the benefits and they like the weekly pay. These are just some of the additional benefits that ESS offers. So just wanted to list those to make sure that you are aware of those. And then one of the things, they've reduced the markup cost for us for the upcoming part of the remainder of the contract. Subs are able to do dual enrollment, so they're able to teach at summer school, which was one of the issues that we had because we wanted them to be able to do that. They're doing daily targeted school visits to make sure that they're improving communication. And then most importantly, I think overall in March, only about 25% of our principals were satisfied with the results. This time we have an 87% response rate, which was much improved, and 83% of those had favorable results, which mean they gave them an A or a B. So I think that's much improved with what we had before. So given the fact of where we feel like our efforts need to be focused in human resources, it's hiring and supporting and retaining our permanent employees. Since our substitutes are happy and we're seeing improvement in the customer service that we're being provided by ESS, our plan is to continue with them through the next year, and we will update and monitor that as we move forward.
Any questions? Board Member Woodbury.
In light of the vacancies that we have, my question is, when will we offer the RFP for benefits? I think that the board has sort of requested the timeline that, the RFP process could, that the RFP process would be available. I think that, for the good of the employees of the district, without being able to compare what other options are out there, that may be something that we could use in addition to ideally, how we have, tried to increase pay, definitely offer very competitive benefits.
Absolutely, and I've actually had contact with 2 groups recently, and when our CFO comes on board permanently, I think that'll be one of the first things that we discuss.
Yeah, I'm still concerned about the results being at 25% in March, because at that point, 3/4 of the year, school year is through. So, and we had them from the beginning of the year. So, I'm really concerned about how until we put them on notice, we didn't get results. And I've heard from enough assistant principals to say they didn't get return phone calls, they didn't get from ESS, they didn't get substitutes through them. And quite frankly, some of the board members, we wouldn't have been substituting as much if this group had done their job. So I'm still very concerned that they came on strong at the end, but where were they from August to March?
So I think that's a legitimate concern. I think that once we addressed what particular issues we were having, and some of those were technical issues with rollover reports and things that lead secretaries were struggling with. However, I understand what you're saying, and I think that we need to continue to monitor that. I think we do have to ask ourselves, our ultimate goal is to provide our schools with the best service that we can, and our substitutes with a place they like to work. And so I think we have to ask ourselves, are we currently equipped in human resources to provide a better service, Or is it better to continue to work with them for the next year so that they can address the areas where we have seen issues?
Well, and it looks like, 2/3 of their workforce was already provided by us. So that's,
actually
67% of of the people that they use were already in our system. So then what I don't understand is if they had 2/3 of their workforce was provided by us, then why did they not fulfill their commitment of the 95% fill rate if they only had to get a few more?
I think because requests were up a lot this year. I mean, there were far more absences. We started the year with 160 plus vacancies. That's not typical. So I think there were some kinks to get worked out. I do believe that the overall goal is for us to spend our efforts and energy on hiring permanent employees so that we have fewer substitute needs.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you. Lastly, Superintendent McManus will give us a COVID update and mask recommendation.
So this will be, I don't have a presentation. This will be the last vote we make of this based on legislation. And also the toolkit as we know it is sunsetting from the state. It's going to be turning into, and let's see, I wrote it. Oh gosh, hold on. It is turning into a document called the Operational Guidance for K-12 Schools. So, but the toolkit as we know it will be sunsetting. Also, just so you know, our community level is at a medium right now. Our Forsyth County community level is at a medium. So we are going to continue with our recommendation of mask optional.
Thank you. Our next order of business is action items. First, consider approval of the superintendent's contract. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second? Any discussion?
Just we're very lucky to have her.
Yes. All in favor? That's unanimous. Next, consider approval of student safety filtering. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the portion for monitoring this, or for the teachers.
For the teacher?
The net ref.
Okay.
Thank you.
To amend the motion to approve for the monitoring for the teachers. Do I have
the net ref.
The net ref. Okay.
Segment.
Do I have a second for that?
I just wanted to clarify. Board Member Crowley, would you also want the family piece? Will they give us that if we just do that? Can we say that?
Include the family piece.
Mm-hmm.
I'll second that.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, that the first one needs to.
Okay.
Can we make a substitute motion?
So the substitute motion. The motion for approval of student safety filtering failed to get a motion. So the substitute motion made by Board Member Crowley, can you repeat it?
Yeah, the motion is to approve the net ref module and the family module.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Could you just make sure it's very clear which part you're keeping and which part you're excluding?
Yeah, the net ref part is for the classroom use where teachers can make sure that what's on Chromebooks is what students are supposed to be
engaged
with at that time.
Okay. We know the best way to do that is through circulating, right?
Oh, yeah.
I'm just going
Right.
to, sorry, I just had to add that. But if you all like that part, that's fine too.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second for the substitute motion. All in favor?
Wait, before we take the vote,
questions?
Yes. I was sort of slow to the draw around supporting. I wanted to approve, but there was no second anyhow. But so we'll just move forward. But that's what I wanted to say. I was kind of daydreaming.
Okay.
But I meant to say motion to approve.
Okay. All in favor for the motion? Okay. Opposed? Motion passes. Next, consider approval of Unified Insights contract. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Motion passes. Next, consider approval of alternative accountability model. Do I have a motion?
Move approval.
A second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor? Motion passes. Next, consider approval of Forsyth County Sheriff's Office of SRO contract. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second. Okay, any discussion?
I would certainly prefer the change in contract language that I recommended.
Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Next, consider approval of Kernersville Police Department SRO contract. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Same comment on Kernersville as well.
Okay. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Next, consider approval of North State Night Patrol Security contract. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second?
Second.
Discussion?
Well, it's at night.
Okay. All in favor? Opposed? Okay. Motion passes. Next, consider approval of the ESSER bids for before and after school care. Do I have a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion?
Yes, I would like for the board to consider, again, some kind of profile, summary of the organizations that we're approving. And, you know, if it's going to pass tonight, then I think, you know, in all fairness to the community, we need to know, you know, what we are okaying to be on the list that, you know, principals would ultimately have the decision, of course, to bring into their schools.
Can I ask a clarifying? We can do that. When do you want that before you commit to approving, or do you want that?
Well, I would, you know, ask the board to consider that, but right now there's a motion to approve and a second, and I'm just right now in discussion.
Okay.
Just, you know, if we're going to approve it, I would again like for as soon as possible, you know, there to be some information provided to the board. And I guess in my opinion, lastly, I just think that in all fairness to the community, we should have an idea of those organizations that we are approving to be on a list.
I agree. I think it's a little bit questionable if we haven't heard of a company before to put our trust in them.
I agree also. I'd like to know.
Do we want to table this? And
So, all right. So here's the. I understand what you're asking, and we could get that to you by the end of the week. And I'm wondering how we could vote, because this is the only problem, is that if a school wants to be ready, we don't have another board member meeting till August 8th, 6th, 7th, or 8th, something. So if a school wants to start with a group, like by September 1st or early, a tutoring group, they would need to delay. So because we can't move forward on anything until we approve it, like them even being able to look. So
I mean, much
what is
like,
the will?
I mean, it wasn't this, I mean, from my understanding, this went through a vetted process with our
Yes.
staff, much like, I mean, for me, much like a lot of the PD contracts and things like that, where, I mean, don't get me wrong, I haven't always voted for all of those, but at the same time, it's you know, they did go through a process. I understand. Board Member Woodbury, you know, there's several of these I've not heard of myself, but you know, I'm thinking that much like other processes that have come to us, that we're not in the room at the time, but you know, school district staff has done their best to vet them and feel like that they are the right ones for this. Maybe because of the time, you know. But if if the concern is that if members of our community asked us questions, that we could at least be emailed, the profile of the company and maybe some of the stronger points as to why, not negative about those who were not chosen, but maybe highlight some of the positives within those organizations that really caught the eye and made them make the list.
And what I will say is that I think that there's a soft compromise in making sure that we can, get as soon as possible the information. I'm just not, comfortable voting for the list without looking at some of the organizations. And I think previously when we would, have contracts before us, we would have some background information on the company. And we could go to a website, and I think that some of us was definitely diligent in, doing research on some of the companies. And I'm not saying that was then the determining factor, but I think in being good stewards, just to put before the board, if you're going to ask us to vote for something, we should have as much information as possible to have a good vote. And I know that, the staff is working hard and so many things are, being asked of you, but it's, my comfortability, and I think, just for the sake of the board, comfortability in approving the list from organizations that we may or may not know of in the community, just would be due diligence. But I understand the time constraints.
So we've had a motion and a second. I'll take a vote. All in favor? Okay, it's 4. Opposed? Motion passes.
Is
Okay.
Alex still on the call?
I don't think he is. 4-3. Oh, right. Okay.
That's why I was asking if Alex was still on the call.
Okay. So motion fails? Okay.
So if this is something, I would just say.
So 4-3? It's not going to pass?
It's the majority of who's present, who's voting.
We're
4 to
missing
3,
2 people. Right.
4 to 3, so it's a majority of the present board.
Yes, 3 hands, 4 in the affirmative. It's, right.
So it's 4 yes, so it's the majority of the present board.
So motion passes.
And okay. So we will compile in response. We will
Okay.
compile. I've looked at Ms. Hales again. She'll have to go to each of the applications and pull all that out. So if you all would be okay getting that by Monday, are you good with that? Yeah. A list of everybody with some detail. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Next, consider approval of contract with Measurement Inc. Do I have a motion?
Oh, move approval.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Okay, that's unanimous. Next, consider approval of policy 3450, special funds of individual schools. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Motion passes. Next, consider approval of policy 3440, inventory of fixed assets. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Motion passes. Next, consider approval of policy 5117, assignment of pupils policy. Do I have a motion?
Move approval.
Second?
Second.
Discussion?
I have a discussion question.
Okay.
On this, I have one is going to go for Dion and then one for Superintendent McManus.
Okay.
Which part of this is legal? Like I know there's some No Child Left Behind. That act has been strict, but there's philosophical languages too. I want to know what those changes are. And also, since there was no community engagement around all the strikes, And is this a placeholder so that we don't have to change choice, or is this just to take care of the legal language? That's from McManus.
So I'm pulling it up here. So the changes in the policy are reflected via the strike-throughs.
Well, like there's some for that is language that has been changed, like No Child Left Behind,
Right.
and there's some that is philosophical in nature.
So the no child left behind references have been removed because that law has changed. It's a different version now. And then there's some language in sections 2A and B that's highlighted in bold italics. That's, I call it philosophical, but that's generally what the board's goals and priorities are with regards to the creation of the choice assignment.
But since it still focuses around the domicile as the leading factor, my question then goes to McManus of, is this the end of choice committee, or is this just a policy to change the language that was necessary?
So this is not the end of, the end of choice committee as it was prior. That ended. The choice committee, as far as our work around choice that Dr. Roseborough has been leading, the work with, we are still in a learning mode. This is not like a finite proposal. And actually, I saw some of the language that was submitted in response today in an email. And I had spoken to Deanna. It was actually great language. It was more committal that was recommended by some of the community members. They just didn't get it in during that period of time. What I will say is this. No, I think the work of choice is continuing. We've had 2 board workshops this year. We've had Bridges Collaborative convening in our own district. We continue to be part of the Bridges Collaborative Network. So no, we are not done with the conversation around choice. I think all that's happening this year has really been around improvement, and that's been Dr. Roseborough's efforts and working with Dr. Pratt and the whole team. So it's not we're done discussing choice. No, absolutely not. I think this is a continuous improvement process, and I think that Dr. Pratt and Dr. Roseborough will reach back out to our community members that have been very invested in our choice process to just keep at it. I mean, this is definitely not like let's add this language and now we're done. No, absolutely not.
And keep me on that list.
Okay.
And I just wanted to also convey my appreciation to Dr. Pratt, who has literally had, dragged the school board into a space to work on trying to rewrite this assignment policy. And this work started several months ago, and from Dr. Pratt's, as I can recall, first presentation to this board, we had to go into a work session and then another work session, and so he has worked tirelessly in trying to get us to a point to where we could agree to disagree on many of the, the language, some of the language of the policy, but try to work as a board to put something in place so that our students and families could have something to operate on to, how they attend school in our district. And I think some of it is definitely to Dr. Pratt's, advice. We have to be time conscious around making sure our policy is in place so that we can, have a strong, assignment plan that we can kind of all live with. So I just wanted to make sure that the board made reference to that in communicating with the community. And then lastly, to Mrs. McManus' point, that I look forward to staff maybe sending something out to the community, particularly Ms. Campbell, who is here tonight, and Reverend Parrish, who's here tonight, to try to respond to some of the concerns and questions that were brought to our attention. And I would say that if as a community we can just know that this is a fluid, open kind of process to improve choice, to to make sure our schools are representative of our diverse society. I think that's where we're all trying to get to.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Next, consider approval of Ashley Elementary School contract for architectural design services. Do I have a motion?
Move. Oh,
Second?
second.
Okay.
And this is wonderful that is actually happening.
Yes, it is. Discussion? All in favor? That's unanimous. Next, consider approval of the disposition of surplus property.
Move to approve.
Second?
Second.
Discussion?
It's hard to hear about surplus property without Ms. Lyda Calvert-Hayes weighing in on it.
I know, before I could call me, I got to see if I need to buy anything.
Oh, all in favor? That's unanimous. Next, consider approval of the FSMC agreement with Chartwells for 2022-2023 school year. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second? Discussion? All in favor? It's unanimous. Next, consider approval of the budget resolution. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay. A discussion? All in favor? It's unanimous. Next, consider approval of mask recommendation. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? And that's unanimous. Our next order of business is the consent agenda. We have 4 items for approval. First, consider approval of the May 10th, 2022 Board of Education meeting minutes. Next, consider approval of the May 24th Board of Education meeting minutes. Next, consider approval of the May and June budget amendments. Consider approval of the general personnel report. Do I have a motion to consider all 4 items? Second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor? That's unanimous. Our next order of business is announcements. Tuesday, August 9th, 2022 will be our next regular meeting of the Board of Education. Until then, I hope everybody has a wonderful summer and stay safe. And I'll just add, please wear sunscreen. Before we begin the section of our meeting in which anyone can comment on anything, let me say to our Cable 2 viewers, thank you for watching. This will conclude our broadcast.
Thank you for joining us on your school channel, Cable 2.